All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Equality and Forensics YouTube. We have Grace Jackson, who is the top speaker in Senate. All right, Grace, introduce yourself for us.
All right. Well, hi everyone. I'm Grace Jackson. When I did debate, I was from Haggerty High School. I was a senior captain of that team and then on that team for 4 years. I was pretty involved with a lot of different nonprofits and stuff. And yeah, that's kind of my little spurt about me in debate.
All right. So a lot of these questions are actually from our Instagram, and if you want to be able to have your questions featured in the next one of these, just be able to follow our Instagram and keep updated. All right. So the first question is just like, how have you kind of seen your improvement process change over time?
Yeah, so I definitely started a little bit rough. I know a lot of kids were, those people who were sophomore national finalists. That was not exactly me. My freshman year, I didn't compete honestly as much as I would have liked to. And then sophomore year, I kind of found out about the national circuit. My team didn't have national circuit debaters. We also lost our coach, so we were like 10 people with the sponsor who wasn't formally a debate coach. I love Miss Allweller and she did her best, but she wasn't able to instruct us in a debate capacity. So I kind of had to learn through trial and error. So my sophomore year, I went to just quite a few circuit tournaments and dropped prelims a lot. So I would drop CFL prelims, didn't drop blue key, but I semied that and then dropped Harvard, which was just great. But I definitely learned a lot. And I think that since I didn't have a public or private coach, I had the opportunity and honestly privilege to be able to learn from everyone around me without thinking that there was a right style of debate. So I think part of my improvement was definitely watching the NSDA finalist videos, specifically 2023 Senate. I kind of use that as like a blueprint of like, okay, how do you not drop in around? Because I realized that if you wanted to be the top speaker or if you wanted to place high in Senate, the key wasn't necessarily to be everybody's one. It was just to make sure that nobody in the room thought that you were a nine. So I think that being able to gain experience through trial and error was really big for me. And then also learning from everyone around me and always keeping an open mind. So never being like, oh, I'm good now, so I'm going to stop learning and stop growing, because you should never stop growing in debate.
Gotcha. And so how did you like kind of come into your own style then?
Yeah, again, kind of trial and error. Like I tried almost everything. I tried like the funny intros, didn't work super well for me. Like it was kind of hit or miss. I tried the cheesy ones. Don't get me started on the era where I was doing stock intros, but I think that I kind of found a style that worked for me, which was very heavy on solvency, and then kind of the framework for the debate being intertwined with the rhetoric, which is kind of something that I did in my final speech for Senate, which was that gun speech. So in that speech, I was kind of like most of my actual speech was focused on solvency, but the framing itself was kind of like a repetitive sort of narrative. So I think if I had to boil down my style, it's kind of solvency heavy, and I prefer to speak later in rounds.
Gotcha. And so,
Mm-hmm.
across your entire career, what's the speech that you'd say you're most proud of?
Hmm.
Tough
That's
question, I
yeah,
know.
yeah. That's tough. Senate in 2024, I would say any one of them, not because they were good, but because I was terrified. The difference between me in 2024 and 2025 was huge, honestly. In 2024, first of all, I was shocked that I finaled. Everyone around me I had like watched on the finalist videos before, because a lot of them were in finals previously. So I was like, oh, these are the people that I look to learn from. And now I'm competing against them. Like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So I was definitely really scared. I still did the speeches and I did fine. Like I could have done a lot of things a lot better, but I think I'm proud of myself for those speeches because they gave me a good opportunity to grow. And I still did it when I was absolutely terrified.
Gotcha. And so, how do you kind of manage that in-round anxiety?
So I like to try and flow everything, and I think not worrying about your competitor and just being focused on the round itself is really important, because you can psych yourself out with the titles of the people around you, but honestly, nobody consistently champions every single thing that they go to, because Congress is completely based on your performance in that given round. So you could have somebody who champ the last big tournament who drops completely off the ballot in this tournament. So I think just reminding myself of that was really big, and also reminding myself why I do it. I think I got more confident as I went on because I knew that I didn't have to rely on other people for my speeches at all. But I had a lot of people who were relying on me and looking to me to be able to teach them. Like I had a lot of novices at Haggerty. I taught a lot of people through equality and forensics, through the Florida Debate Initiative. So I knew that I had kids who looked to me to kind of be their example of like, here's how you do in debate if you don't have the ability to have coaching. So that really helped ground me a lot of the times.
Gotcha. Um, and so when you're prepping, how do you kind of handle that time management? Because obviously it's kind of time intensive.
Yeah, well, so honestly, as I got better at debate, I started prepping the speeches less and more the round, if that makes sense. Like I would go into the round with a strategy, with rhetoric, and with evidence, but not necessarily like a here's my typed, printed out speech with blocks for people to have pre-written rebuttals, because I just never found that that worked well for people. So there's basically three things that I always try to prep. Number one is strategy. If I have a general idea of who's going to be in the round and the round is an important one, like for example, NSDA finals, I'll kind of be like, okay, this is how people in the past haven't dropped in NSDA finals. This is the strategy that they used. The first speech has to be heavy on this thing, second speech, third speech, and so on. Second thing I prep is rhetoric. So I always have the intro and conclusion, especially for final speeches, like prepped out, ready for the most part, or I at least have an idea of it. Funny enough, in my third speech in national finals, I had the idea of kind of what I was going to say, like the only in America mantra, but I didn't really know it was going to go in between that. I thought that would kind of come to me sort of during the round. Third thing is going to be evidence. So I always make sure that I'm well researched on every topic, just out of respect for, the money that my mom has put into me to be able to debate, and also out of respect for the tournament. Like I feel like you should be able to speak on either side and understand it. So yeah, that's kind of my preparation process. Different things work for everyone, but I find that that worked for me because it doesn't freak me out because I don't have to come up with an intro and round, which I think is something that's time intensive to do and also can worry you if you start to get a little bit stressed in the round. But I also have the flexibility to be able to adapt based on what other people say.
Mhm. And so what is that rhetoric process actually like out of round?
How do I even describe this? I tried building like a rhetoric bank for myself my sophomore and junior year, mostly based off of things like I would watch like the Tonight Show, I would watch like slam poetry and stuff like that. And if I heard something cool and like got an idea, I just kind of write it down and then I kind of played with those ideas as I went on. I'm not the most creative person when it comes to like coming up with stuff on the spot. Like I can't go up there with nothing and just give a fire intro like some people can. So I definitely had to work on it, but I found that either like historical intros or something that work really, really well for me. So I like using those a lot. And then also intros that kind of utilize repetition. Like I use some like Only in America, See You Tomorrow, those kind of ones. Those work really, really well for me. So just kind of adapting those and staying true to the kind of rhetoric that I use, not trying to force myself to use something that other people use just because it's popular.
So who would you say, like, as you were an up-and-coming debater, would be your biggest inspirations within the space?
Hmm. Okay, that's interesting. First off was my captain my freshman year, Zach Zaney. He was great, and I thought he was like the coolest thing in the world because he always won at local tournaments freshman year. And he really, really believed in me a lot. Like he didn't think I was insane for being like, oh, Hardy doesn't do national circuit, but like let me just go do it by myself so you guys can get some money for this. He always believed in me. So I think that was a big inspiration for me. Also, Emily Stevens, she was absolutely incredible. First time I saw her was Sunfight, and up until that point, I hadn't really been in a round with like any of the big like competitive female debaters on the circuit. But she was really, really great. She's super kind. She's super good on her speeches. Um, yeah, and she never fails with solvency. Like if I'm giving a speech, I know that she will be one of the only people in the room to actually ref the speech itself, like the arguments, and do it well, as opposed to kind of like roughing rhetoric. Like some people kind of play with rhetoric and not the speech itself. But I think she was a really big inspiration for, and she helped me a lot with developing my style in focusing on solvency for refutation rather than just saying people's names and then kind of moving on.
Mhm. And so, kind of playing on that idea, how do you think being a female debater on the national circuit has kind of affected your not only your world view, but how you are in round?
It's different. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. There's definitely a lot of things that can be annoying about it, but I think it's really empowering to be able to succeed as a female debater in round, because there's number one, so few of us, but number two, there's a lot of implicit biases. I think that in round you definitely have to be a little bit more timid because aggressive was a comment that I used to get a lot when I was kind of a freshman and figuring things out. You have comments about what you're wearing, your hair, stuff like that. So you have to watch it sometimes, which is unfortunate to say, but I mean, it happens in the real world as well. But I think just being able to power through that and being able to still succeed is definitely empowering. So being a female debater on the circuit, honestly, is great because you're able to learn from all of the people around you. Like I think that especially this year, we had a lot of wonderful female debaters who were really, really strong competitively. So being able to be in a round with them was just really, really cool, especially in Senate finals because we had like a lot of women in that round. So that was definitely nice to see.
So, if you had to give any advice to novice you, what would it be?
Oh man. Don't psych yourself out about private coaching. I thought that private coaching was like the end all be all. I was like, oh my gosh. Every time I walked into a round, if I saw somebody give me like a weird look, I would assume that I said something wrong, that there was some technique I didn't know about, there was some speech structure, some taboo thing you weren't supposed to do that you would have learned if you had a coach. And that really scared me for a long time because I was like, oh no, I don't have any like formal learning. I just kind of like self-taught myself. What if I'm doing something wrong? But honestly, I think that that helped me because it helped me stand out as I kind of got later in my career because I didn't have a set style to kind of stick to. Like a lot of states or institutions have things that you can kind of tell are styles. Like I can normally tell if you're like a Bay Area, California debater versus like a South Florida debater versus Texas debaters. Like there's kind of stylistic differences in different things. And then Midwestern debaters. So I think not adhering to that was great for me, but in hindsight, I should have not been so worried about that in the past.
Gotcha. And so, how do you think like that malleable style has affected like not only how you do in round, but how you view the event?
Mm-hmm. I view it as more adaptable. I know a lot of people come in with kind of like pre-written rebuttal blocks, which is totally fine. Like everyone can do what works for them. But I started to view it more as a discussion and thought of my speech not as like, oh, let me make the best speech in the round, but like let me move the round forward the most. Because I think that normally the people who win in debate are the ones who show that they can progress the round forward, that they can like switch to a new topic, that they introduce something that really changes the debate. And I think that in the real world, that's a really valuable skill to have as well, to not view every time that you speak as, hey, let me advance my own self position, but let me move this discussion forward. I think in real Congress, we could use a lot of that as well.
And this is also kind of a weird question, but do you see Congress as more of a speech event or more of a debate event?
It depends on who you are and who you're competing with. I think any final round, the final round of this is something that I noticed and probably a strategy that I implemented. Um, I noticed specifically from 2023 Senate that the way that you don't drop is following this like I don't want to say specific structure, but it's kind of it's interesting. So first speech can't be bad. It doesn't even have to be good. It just can't be memorably bad. Like don't speak on the wrong side. Don't curse at anybody. Like stuff like that. Don't do anything that's memorably bad. The first speech is literally just like just prove that you're not bottom six in the round, especially like in national finals. The second speech has to be heavy on solvency. So the second speech, I would say in most final rounds is like the most debate one because a lot of people in the second speech I noticed kind of opt for like a lot of rhetoric and not a lot of technical refutation. But like judges at some point are going to get sick of everyone giving big dramatic stories as opposed to debating the bill. So I think in the second speech, it's important to have like a good intro, but your entire speech should almost exclusively be solvency and should add something like changing the debate. Like you should change the debate. You should be name dropped a lot because something you brought up was so important that it moves around forward. The third speech is the speech event. Like you'll notice in most national final round, this is something that I noticed because I watched them all to kind of learn. The third speech is the rhetoric heavy one. This is the one that has to be like the heavy hitter. One of your speeches has to be like slam dunk. Rhetoric was unforgettable. Maybe you don't have as much technical refutation as that second speech, but yeah, the third speech, and you'll notice like 2024, 2023, everybody, third speech was like the big speech. Like it's all the rhetoric, it's all the bells and whistles. Yeah, so I think it depends on the point in the round. Um, if I had to say one though, I would say speech event just because I think I see good rhetoric win in high like very, very competitive rounds more often than necessarily the best argument.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, and so how do you think would like be the best way to get started with the event at all?
Honestly, quality and forensic scrimmages are a great place to start because they're low pressure. So I would say get involved with that. Local tournaments, don't be afraid to try things. And then, yeah, I would definitely recommend watching the videos of prior finalists because you get to notice trends of what placed well. Like, look at people and not only look at if they won, but look at their ranks. Like, did they drop it all? Because you really want to make sure in every debate round, if you're going in with a mindset that you want to win, it's not necessarily about being everybody's one. It's just that nobody in the room can believe that you were not top eight or that you dropped it all. Yeah, so I think that also focus on like making friends. Like there's definitely a lot in debate that can make it a lot more fun. And I think one of the most rewarding things is I've gotten a lot of some of my best friends out of debate. And it's just so fun to be able to be in rounds with people and to be at tournaments with people that you trust and that you're actually friends with. So don't view everyone as competition because that's not going to help you very much in round. It kind of comes across a little bit, but also you're going to make the experience more enjoyable for yourself. But also remember that the point of debate isn't to have trophies, and if the only thing you have to show for your amazing debate career is trophies, you did something catastrophically wrong. So make sure that you use that voice for advocacy. Go teach, go speak up for something. Because debate can give you a lot if you know what to make of it. But the only thing that you should get out of debate shouldn't be trophies.
And so kind of on that advocacy point, how do you think is the
Mm-hmm.
best way to transition your skills from actual debate more over to the advocacy side?
I think starting with educational advocacy is probably the easiest thing to do. Like I transitioned almost as soon as I got like good enough to have like some respect to my name. I was like, okay, let me go teach and see if I can get money for like my school for Title I schools in the area. So I started creating debate programs in Seminole County. So we worked with the middle schools and things like that. So I got involved with Equality and Forensics and the Florida Debate Initiative first, which were both like debate nonprofits. And then through those, specifically FDI, I kind of met the people that I worked with to transition a little bit more into political advocacy. Honestly, it doesn't matter what you're advocating for, but it should like just speak up about something because in this world, it's really important that you use your voice and have something to show for it. So definitely try and speak up, whether that be with your own initiative through somebody else. But it's really important to just put yourself out there. Cold email, cold call, trust me, it works. Yeah.
A lot of like your success you've said comes from changing the debate round itself. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you individually go about seeing an issue within the debate round and taking it upon yourself to like kind of improve on it?
Uh, predicted and know your competitors. So like when I was prepping this final round, so 2025 Senate, our second bill was the intelligence one. It was like a I'm almost forgetting it now, but yeah, it was like it was something with like intelligence and being able to release and like perform surveillance on different people. So when I was researching that bill, I kind of was able to like predict just based off of I've seen most of the people in that round before because a lot of the people in national finals finaled in other things. So I'd seen them before. So I kind of knew like what arguments and what impacts people would tend to pull in that sort of situation. I think the first thing you check for if you want to change the round is timeliness. A lot of people have, especially people who come from big schools or have a lot of private coaching, have speeches that have been written by people in the past, which means if you know an event that happened yesterday or a couple of months ago, a lot of people might catch that threw them for a loop. So that was what I used. I used that 2025 Supreme Court ruling that kind of like changed how it was able to be enforced. And as soon as I said that, I brought it up in questioning first and it kept being brought up. So I was like, okay, there we go. There's the traction. I moved the debate a little bit. So kind of after that, the debate sort of centered a little bit more on, okay, is it better to have this reformed 702 Act or the non-reformed 702 Act? And so I think that worked well for me. But to be able to prepare that, just kind of look at both sides of the round and see what's going to come up. Like, obviously, you're going to have a lot of the same impacts, a lot of the same rhetoric, but focus on your solvency if you want to make the debate go forward. Because a lot of people think that the way that you win a debate round is with big, dramatic rhetoric, big impacts every single time. But the judges are going to get sick of that. So, yes, that's what you should end on because that's kind of your final impression. but throughout the debate, you should prove that like you are an important part of the discussion, and the discussion wouldn't have gotten where it went without you. Yeah, so
Mhm.
I think that's kind of how I think about it.
Gotcha. And so how do you like structure your solvency blocks then? Like how do you figure out a way to make sure that your solvency is like very able to be continued throughout the round?
Mm-hmm. So I definitely use kind of like a build and then block structure. So I try to like build on what my own argument would be and then block somebody else's. Honestly, a lot of it comes in the round because I don't think solvency is something you can completely prep out before the round. You can prep like different solvency blocks, but you don't know which one to use until you kind of get in there. Like some of the arguments that came up on 702, I wouldn't have necessarily guessed that would have come up, but I had to rough them because we kind of got to that point in the round. I think being very clear on your solvency is very important too. Like in my second speech, I used a three-part solvency block. Um, yeah, so just kind of signposting like one, two, three, and then also pointing out the mechanism that you're using definitely helps as well. Like if you're talking about scope, if you're talking about legality, if you're talking about timeliness, like mine was mostly focused on that 2025 thing because everyone had evidence from 2024, and if they had evidence from 2025, it was like a recycled study from like 2024. So I think that definitely like helped me, and I got somewhat lucky in the aspect that I kind of came across that statistic when I was researching.
Hmm. And so what do you kind of go into a round with, whether it be like prelims, sems, or finals? Like
Mhm.
what do you have on your legal pad or on your iPad when you walk into a round?
On my legal pad, not much. Most of what I would have would be like, so how I kind of prep is I make like a bullet point list of rhetoric that I like might use on a document. After that, I have just like my little evidence dump, and then I do like a summary in my own words of what the bill does, what people are probably going to say it does, and what it actually does. So I think that that's something that I kind of do. If I have anything on my legal pad, it's like just evidence. I normally try to do like three pieces per speech. Yeah, that's basically it. If it's a round that's like an out round, so like semis or finals, I will have like multiple pieces of evidence, like any piece of evidence I think I'm going to use on post-it notes so I can move it around. Like I think in Senate finals, I had like 10 for each speech except the third one. I don't know why I didn't write the third one in advance. I just kind of had it like on my computer, but it ended up working out. So
So, how do you think your strategy changes based on like what the break would be? So, like from prelims to semifinals versus semifinals to finals, how do you think your strategy changes?
I think you have to be more mindful of your competitors. In prelims, in most cases, you just have to be like good, just overall good. Like that like that can be like rhetoric, that can be solvency. You just to overall be like, oh yeah, good debater right there. In semis, it can get a little bit more difficult. Like I think if you're in like TOC semis or like NSDA Senate semis, those rounds are definitely like everyone in the room is a really good debater. So to be able to stand out, that's where you have to start worrying about, okay, I have to progress the debate forward. Not making noticeable mistakes, but also being mindful of like who am I competing with. So in my round, I was competing with a lot of people who were very heavy on like emotional rhetoric. So I was like, okay, to be able to break out of this round, I either have to be better at emotional rhetoric or be really good at solvency. So I think kind of being able to like notice what your competitors do, because there's definitely different types of debaters and what their strengths and weaknesses are. So either doing what they do better or doing something else really, really great so that you're kind of not comparable in that aspect. Finals is where you got to worry about kind of that three speech strategy. I don't know. I kind of came up with that right before NSDA Senate, and I wish I realized it before that. But when I went back through the videos, I just kind of noticed that to be able to not drop, and that was my goal in Senate. I had like placed bets with my friends before that it was going to be a PO champ. I almost knew that kind of based on how the rest of the season had went. Like Harvard was a PO champ, so I was like, okay, Senate House is probably going to be a PO champ, but I was like, I definitely want to go for the top speaker and I don't want to drop. So that was my goal. And so I looked at people who hadn't dropped Senate in the past. And with those individuals, because there aren't that many, but with the people that were able to do that, it was because they didn't opt for the big optics of like big dramatic rhetoric until like one speech. And that one speech is what won them the round. But what made them be able to win so clearly and not be dropped was the fact that they weren't lacking in solvency. So I think that if you look at a lot of people where you're like, why on earth didn't they place higher? It's because they went for a lot of rhetoric, but maybe didn't have that like super stellar solvency earlier in the round.
Gotcha. And so what do you think is like the biggest mistake that you see debaters make, whether in prelims or semifinals, when they're trying to break?
Mm-hmm. When you're trying to break, being too reliant on outside resources, and this can mean a lot of things. Um, I definitely think that all of your work should be your own. And if it's not, you're at a big disadvantage. Don't like if your teammates have speeches, don't use those completely. Like you can definitely, if you have the ability to have a team who has a lot of evidence, you can definitely use like evidence and stuff, but try not to completely recycle speeches, because if the speech is not your own, it's very clear that it's not yours because you can't like defend it properly. When something just kind of came from you, it's more evident and you will be way more confident in your ability to speak. I think that don't try to be like other debaters either. Like if you look at any debater who did really, really well, you're not going to be like, oh yeah, he's just like this guy, because he's not. He's just whoever this person is, right? So just be the best version of yourself. It sounds cheesy, but it's true. You will never win a debate round trying to be like someone else, especially because those judges on the Nat circuit at least will have seen that person before. So if you're trying to impersonate someone else's style kind of in any sort of way, it becomes kind of apparent. So stay true to yourself. And use your own resources, because I'm telling you, like, it really, really helps. Don't have people like ghostwriting for you. Don't be using other people's speeches word for word. And try to get off those typed speeches, like if you can, or if you do have a typed speech, don't type everything out, because seriously, you're going to limit yourself a lot.
Gotcha. And so what do you think would be the biggest advice you have to someone who just is struggling to break but hasn't been able to do it yet?
Mm-hmm. Um, hmm. I would say prep the round, not the speech. And that looks like a lot of different things. For example, NSDA, I noticed last year, and this is part of the reason I didn't do very well, a lot of the judges were like conservative and kind of like older, more experienced coaches. How you do in that round is very different than a local round where everyone is a parent judge. Like there's just different things that would appeal to different styles of judges. So I think like think about that. Think about who's going to be at this round, what schools, what geographic area are they from, like what is the strength and weakness of like that area. um Prep for your competitors, not necessarily for like the speech, if that makes sense. So prep enough where you have like the intros, where you understand the round like conceptually, as opposed to here's my printed speech and I'm just going to go up there and give it. Understand where your part in the round is, where to play it, and who is really important in that round.
Gotcha. And so how do you think is the best way to kind of pick up that round vision?
Honestly, round vision is something that's hard to teach. It definitely comes through trial and error a little bit. Like you'll start to notice things, but I think that watching previous videos where you can find them is good. Like in the COVID era, there were a lot of online tournaments, and like yeah, the quality's not great, but like you could definitely learn a thing or two about like round vision, specifically because during COVID, people had to focus a little bit more on solvency because you don't have the delivery aspect as much as in person to kind of emphasize rhetoric. So yeah, in terms of round vision, it's paradigms, but obviously that's not something you can do super in advance. But also just know your competitors. Like after a while on the circuit, you're gonna start to notice like these people are really good at this sort of thing. Learn how to be better at that. Like don't prep like, okay, I'm gonna give my little speech on carbon tax. Like prep, okay, this is where people in the past have spoken on this bill. Like I'm looking at, you could look at 2024 Senate finals. This is the arguments that people made. This is where I can add to that. This is how I can move this forward. Because any judge that cares a lot about solvency will care about that. But then also, if you kind of have that really great rhetoric to go along with it, that's going to appeal to everyone across the board.
So let's say pairings have just come out for a round.
Mm-hmm.
What is the first thing that you do?
Well, I normally try to figure out the docket, like depending on what the tournament is. And you know, I'm a big advocate of trying to make sure that you're not forcing dockets on people. Like a lot of times there's group chats that just some people aren't in, so making sure that everyone is part of that discussion. Also, sometimes I have to change the argument based on who I know is in it. Like Emily Stevens is probably my biggest example of this. If I know she's in the round, I know she's gonna, if she speaks after me, she's going to be the only one to like to truly refute the argument and she won't miss a single part of it. So I kind of have to like fix the argument, make sure that like solvency is impenetrable because like she seriously she doesn't miss on that kind of thing. If I have specifically like Bay Area California debaters in the round, I'm kind of like, okay, so we got to be a little bit more like appealing. You got to be more like charismatic because it's kind of like what they do as a style. I've kind of noticed. Yeah, so I think it's just like thinking about your competitors and thinking about different things to do. I also think about where those people tend to speak, and this doesn't work all the time, but in rounds where I know everyone pretty well, I know who is a like who prefers to be a crystal speaker, who doesn't want to speak early, which is honestly like most people who don't want to sponsor. But then also there are some people who are like serial sponsors, and kudos to you guys. So it's good to be mindful of all of those people on the circuit.
Gotcha. All right. And so in 2025 Senate Finals, what do you think was your strongest speech? Or like the speech that you're most proud of?
Mm, pro- eh, like tactically the best one was like the second one because I think just the solvency on that one was strong. And I think I was able to like that was probably my peak of like being able to move the debate forward. Like I hadn't been able to kind of pinpoint that and do it in another round the way that I was able to do it there and like not be dropped throughout the round. But I probably my third speech, just because at that point I, with the tragic event that happened that day, I thought that it was important to kind of bring it up a little bit just out of a sign of respect. So I think at that point, I started caring just a little bit less about how well the speech would do and just thought that it was important to acknowledge it because I didn't want to make the mistake of being like the real Congress and not talking about events that directly affect us and kind of being like super insulated from the outside world.
Gotcha. All right. And as our last question today, um, so debate is super, super time consuming. And now that you're no longer in it, what are you going to spend your free time doing?
That's a wonderful question. So I'm one of the only debaters I know who's not doing a political science major. But I'm at Berkeley now. And I don't think I can like legally say what I'm involved with, but I'm getting involved with like a lot of different startups in kind of in the area, which is really great because I've been transitioning a little bit more into tech. Like I did a lot of nonprofit work when I was in high school. So I'm continuing to run my nonprofit, Bake It Forward. So we keep doing donations of baked goods to domestic violence victims. And then I'm also doing a lot of tech stuff. So I self-taught Python. I'm learning Korean as well. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm prepping for the upcoming internship cycle. And yeah, I'm really excited to be at Berkeley and in the Bay Area. This is like truly an area that's unlike any other. And I understand why the debaters who come out of this area are so good as well, because everyone here is so intelligent. It's truly a really wonderful place. But yeah, so I'm learning tech. I'm honestly just exploring. Like this summer, I did so many different things, just in different like unrelated sectors. But yeah, it's been really fun because I think that I'm really like fulfilled because I'm kind of fulfilling my curiosity and exploring different things, but also gaining a lot of technical skills.
Thank you all for watching this interview. If you liked, please subscribe because some crazy number, like 72% of people who watch our videos aren't subscribed. It really helps us out so much, and we'll have more content like this out soon.